Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the June Champions Edge call on getting results by improving your communication. My name is Coach Dan Foster, and I'm so glad that you guys decided to be with us this morning. I want to just say kudos to you for having a discipline that allows you to spend time in your week focusing on professional development. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us. You know, recently I was on the Harvard Business Review website, and I went up to the search engine and I simply put in communication and hit search, and you wouldn't believe it, but over 5,000 search results came out of that search. And it was everything from blog posts to case studies to books to articles, you name it. There was just so much thought leadership on how to improve communication. Now today I'm not going to give you an overview of all 5,000 of those search results. Instead, I want to just focus on something that is very simple and very practical. And it's a tool that we use here at Building Champions. In fact, we've been using it here for the past 15 years, and it's called DISC. And we use this tool to help our clients and their teams just improve communication, improve their overall productivity, and just drive results. And we use this also internally. We believe in it so much as a communication tool and as a tool to help drive performance that we use this on every new employee that we hire. When we're considering a new initiative or when we're taking on a new project, we're going to look at the people that are working on that project, see what their DISC profiles are, and know where their strengths are and where to position them properly. So we really believe in this tool, and one of the reasons why we do is because it's extremely powerful. And what do I mean by that? Well, DISC is one of those tools that can help improve your communication and results, both at work and at home. And that's really unique, and it's really exciting when we find a tool that we can talk to our clients about and talk to them about how it can improve things in their office and with their teams and with their personal production. And at the same time, they can go home and they can use the exact same tool to talk about things with their family and to see how they interact and communicate with their spouse, to look at their children and make sure they're communicating and interacting with them well. And so DISC is a very, very powerful tool that we love using here at Building Champions, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. So let's get started. What exactly is DISC? Sometimes I like to talk about what something isn't because it helps to frame what it actually is. And so let's talk about what DISC does not measure. First of all, DISC does not measure your personality. Okay? It doesn't measure your intelligence. It's not like where you're going to be halfway through the assessment and all of a sudden something's going to pop up on the screen saying, you know what, let's just call it a day. I don't think we're going to get through this thing. No, it doesn't measure whether you're a success or a failure in life. And it certainly doesn't measure your value as a person. What DISC does do and what it does measure are your behaviors and your emotions. And these are two key elements to our overall communication style. You see, the DISC tool helps you to understand your personal communication preferences. It allows you and teaches you how to recognize other people's communication style, and it teaches you how to adapt your communication style to maximize the impact on your audience and to drive results. Okay? So let's talk about some of the just personal benefits for you in terms of using the DISC assessment. First of all, I think it helps you increase your self-knowledge, and anytime you can be increasing your self-knowledge about yourself, how you communicate, it's a good thing. One of the things, or some of the things that DISC will do is it'll reveal how you respond to conflict. It'll give you insight on what motivates you in the workplace, what motivates you at home. It'll talk to you about what causes you stress and how you communicate when you're tired and when you're fatigued, but also how you can really play on your strengths and communicate well when you're in your strength zone. It talks to you about how you solve problems and challenges. It also identifies some just natural strengths that you bring to groups and to teams that you're a part of. And when you know this information about yourself and you recognize and are able to see other people's behavioral styles, well, then your ability to communicate and connect with people just skyrockets. And so do the results. Now, from a team perspective, people that use DISC, teams that use DISC, they have a deeper understanding of everyone's communication preferences, which allows you to have more productive team meetings. People become more aligned to the jobs that match their strengths. When you look at their DISC report and you look at the different projects, different initiatives that you have, and you align those people based on their DISC, then you can have tremendous productivity, a lot of efficiencies. With DISC in teams, conflict is handled not necessarily in a crisis mode, but more in a constructive manner when you understand how people communicate in crisis and during conflict. And I think most importantly, when you have people aligned around DISC and people are communicating properly, you have greater buy-in to shared purpose and shared goals for your organization. Well, how exactly does DISC work? Well, DISC is an assessment, and I hate to use the word test, but you're going to answer about 24 questions when you go to take your DISC report. And those 24 questions will take you about, on average, around 10 to 20 minutes to complete. Just depends on how you like to take assessments. You're going to answer questions based on, you're going to see some phrases that come up, and you're going to say, you know, this phrase is least like me. Or you'll see another group of phrases and they'll ask you, which phrase is most like you? And you'll answer those types of questions. And when you do that, your answers are going to produce a report. And in that report is going to be a graph. And this graph is going to represent your DISC profile. And your answers will reveal levels of intensity in 4 different areas, in 4 different dimensions of behavior and emotions. Now, on average, most DISC profiles have 2 scores that are above this energy line. And you'll have 2 scores that generally are below that energy line. Now, the 2 scores that are above that line are typically your high-intensity areas, which means you're going to be more inclined to communicate, behave, and have an emotional response to your environment that are in those areas. The low-intensity areas mean that not that you couldn't respond in that way, but that you're less likely to. So let's dig a little bit deeper. What exactly do those letters mean? What does D, I, S, and C mean? Well, let's take a look here. The D stands for dominance. And dominance, what it measures here is how you respond to problems and challenges. Are you going to be someone that moves real quickly and is willing to take risks when you're faced with a problem and a challenge? Or are you going to be someone that moves slower and wants to assess that risk? The I stands for influence. And what they're looking for here is how do you influence other people to your point of view? Are you someone that's very outgoing, very optimistic and motivating and loves to use words? Or are you someone that's a little bit more reserved when you're around new people and you're skeptical of new relationships? You like to give things a little bit of time before you jump in. Next is S, which stands for steadiness. Steadiness is going to measure your preferred pace of environment. Are you someone that likes a predictable, slower-paced environment? Or are you someone that loves spontaneity, that loves having something new to do every single day, loves it being flexible, new clients, new opportunities, new situations to handle? Then there's the C, which stands for compliance. And what that's going to measure is how you respond to rules and regulations and procedures that are set by other people. Are you going to be someone that adheres to rules and reads instructions? Like when you get that new Blu-ray player, you take it home, you get it out of the box, and you lay all the remote out, the cords, you have the instruction book, and you read that before you set it up? Or are you going to be someone that tears into that box, puts batteries in the remote, sets up real quick, throws a Blu-ray in, and just starts watching the show. Doesn't really care what the instructions say or if you did it right. You just want to see if you can get it set up. A lot of different approaches to things. And so that's what those letters mean. D, dominance. I, influence. S, steadiness. C, compliance. Our goal today, I want to dig deeper into how DISC helps you. And like I said, when you understand your own personal communication preferences, when you are able to recognize others and how they communicate and what their behavioral style is like, and when DISC allows you and teaches you to kind of adapt your communication style, that's when, like I said, you can have that maximum impact on your audience and the people you're trying to communicate with. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to focus on the understanding piece. I really want to go a little deeper on these 4 different behavioral types and what and how you respond to someone that has a high intensity in each of these different dimensions. So let's take a look. The first behavioral style that I want to look at is dominance, and someone that's a high D. And the picture that I associate with this is, of course, Donald Trump, the Donald. Now remember, dominance measures how you respond to problems and challenges. Are you going to be someone that's extroverted and task-oriented? Well, then you're probably a high D. High Ds, they're very driven. What's most important to them is going to be results and action. That's what they're looking for. They like being in charge. They like winning. They like success. What they don't like, though, is they don't like feeling vulnerable. You're not going to see a high D sitting around in a circle sharing feelings about how last week went. Probably not where you're going to see the high D, okay? They like being in charge, like I said. And so one of their fears is kind of that vulnerability and that not being in charge. You're going to notice that these high Ds are typically very direct communicators. They're very confident. Some of their limitations, though, is that they can tend to be perceived as not caring and very brash. I just want to give you a quick example. I had a client one time that I was showing property to. I used to be a realtor, and we ran into some road construction. And it was going to take us about 5 minutes to get around the road construction. The house that we wanted to go see was just 100 yards away, and if we could go through the road construction, we'd be there in less than a minute. I told my client that was sitting next to me in the passenger seat, I'm sorry, Don, we're going to have to, go around this. It'll just be about 5 minutes. And he says, no, we're not. And he says, you put your foot on the gas. He grabs the wheel, reaches across me, and turns the wheel into the construction and starts weaving around the road construction to get us to the house. That's a high D. That's what I'm talking about, a high D behavior is like. So how do we communicate with these high Ds? Well, you want to be brief and to the point. Okay, you want to be prepared for them to give you answers to your questions very quickly. They don't need necessarily a lot of time to think things through. They like choices. You want to not just come in and say, hey, here's your option. What are you going to do? Option A, it's really take it or leave it. High Ds do not like that because they feel like you've now taken the control out of them, and now you're saying this is what you've got to do. If you can give them options A, B, and C with a very quick explanation about the benefits of each, then they'll be able to make their choice. Okay? What they don't want you to do is challenge their authority and have you try to control the conversation. They need to know that they're in control. You can act like a Sherpa, though, okay, and kind of guide them to the decision that they need to make, knowing that you guided them along the way and that you allowed them to feel like they were in control. All right, let's take a look at that next area, that next dimension of behavior, which is the influence. It's the high I. And remember, this is how you influence others to your point of view. High Is are extroverted, just like the D, but they're people-oriented instead of task-oriented. Okay, so for a high I, they're all about encouragement and action. They love motivating people, love just encouraging people. They themselves thrive on words of affirmation and being in the spotlight. They like receiving the kudos. They do not like, and they're nervous, they're scared about ever being rejected or being disapproved of by their team or by their clients or others in their community. You're going to notice that these guys are very charming. They love talking. They love sharing ideas. There are some limitations, though. We know this about high I's that are typically salespeople. They will have a tendency to overpromise and underdeliver. So leaders, if you're out there and you're trying to motivate your team and you're talking about new initiatives and you are overpromising and underdelivering, just know that that starts to cause a little distrust with some of the folks that you're actually communicating with. So how can you, as an individual, communicate with a high I? Well, here's some things to remember. You want to make sure that you're very personable and friendly with them. It's not like the high D where you've got to come in and just be very to the point, bottom line, here's what we're looking at, what would you like to do? The high I wants to get to know you. They want to talk to you. They want to be friendly with you. You need to slow down, take time with them, ask them about their opinion, about their goals, what they're trying to achieve. But what you don't want to do is overwhelm them with information. They don't like having a lot of choices. They actually will probably trust you to give them a recommendation. Option A is the best thing for you to do, and they'll probably take it, okay? So different than that high D in that they're more people-oriented and wanting to connect. Let's take a look at the S now, the high S. If you remember, S stands for steadiness, and it's how you respond to the pace of your environment. High S's typically are introverted, okay? Introverted but people-oriented. They're similar to the I in this way, but they're different in that they're introverted. High S's are all about support and stability. They are looking for environments where they can be in a collaborative team environment where it's stable, it's healthy, there's not a lot of dysfunction and emotional, baggage that's going on amongst teams. They just don't like that. They like to be able to come into work to do their best, to serve, to support, and just come in and day out and get the job done. They really don't like change. Change is hard for a high S. And they also don't really like brash people that are just very direct, kind of almost in their face a little bit with some of their communication. And so I want to give just a quick warning here for the high Ds in communicating with a high S. If you're a high D out there, when I described that and that sounded just like you, and you know you've got some team members that are high S's, guess what? You guys are naturally going to butt heads just a little bit because of your different communication styles and behavioral preferences. You're going to notice about the high S's that you probably don't notice them too much. You see, they're not flashy. They're not someone that needs to be in the spotlight. They would rather have their actions speak for them. They're very consistent in their performance. They're very reliable. Now, as I said before, they hate change, but not just change. They just don't like change for no reason. And because of that, they can sometimes be indecisive. Well, what are some communication tips for the high S? Well, you want to make sure that you're taking time with them, okay? You want to go slower with them just like you do with the I, and you want to build trust, and you want to be sincere. Sometimes how I describe the difference between the I and the S, since they're both people-oriented, is if I was to say to a high I, how many friends do you have? They'd be like, my friend list it's a mile wide, right? Well, an S is going to be about maybe 2 or 3 inches wide, but it's going to be a mile deep because they really like going deep with you. They like asking questions. They want you to ask them questions, and they love it when they see that you're actively listening to them, repeating back what they're saying. That's really a great way to communicate with a high S. You got to look for hurt feelings with high S's because typically it will seem like they do not display emotion. They just are the steady Eddies, the steady Cathys that come into work every day, and you seem like, man, they're just not very emotional. Well, they are. They just keep it to themselves. They're private individuals. So you have to really dig. If you feel like you've overpromised and underdelivered and you've been maybe abrupt or cold, you may not see it on their face. You may have to dig and say, I bet that was uncomfortable for you. I apologize. Okay? All right, let's look at our last one here is compliance, the high C, which is how you respond to rules and procedures and regulations that are set by others. Just like the S, the C is going to be introverted. But like the D, they're going to be more task-oriented. High C's are just driven by results through excellence. Okay, this is where they differ from that high D that's task-driven, results-driven. They're both results-driven. The high C, though, is going to say to you, don't just judge me on the results. Judge me on how I got there. You'll notice that I followed all the rules. I followed all the instructions. I checked off every box to get us to where we wanted to go. High C's are motivated by the opportunity to learn new things, learn new procedures, new systems, new ways of doing things to help quality. But they also like to present. They like to show their expertise. They like to demonstrate to others that they are an expert in a certain area and they understand what needs to be done. What they really don't like, though, is they have this fear of being wrong, of breaking the rules. And so remember how I told you the D and the S is going to maybe butt heads every once in a while? Well, the I and the C are going to butt heads every once in a while. And the reason why is because the high I has a lack of attention to detail, which can drive a high C nuts. And it just frustrates them when the high I comes in and has messy reports and doesn't really have facts and figures to back up what they're saying. That you will notice that the high C really struggles with that. Okay, they need details. They're slow in their decision-making process, and because of this, this can be a limitation for them. And we call that paralysis by analysis, which is very typical for a high C. If they do not have enough information, then they will not be able to make the decision that you need them to make. All right, so what are some communication tips when you're working with the high C? Give them hard data and facts. Just almost do a data dump on them and allow them to see all the raw figures, the spreadsheets, the projections. They want to see all of that because they want to analyze it. You got to be patient, though, and allow them to think. You can't push them to have a response, to answer a question, to decide on something like you can a D or an I. You've got to step back just a little bit and allow them to think and analyze, okay? You need to control the conversation, though. Just like you're a Sherpa for the D, that you're going up that mountain and the D gets to the top and he says, I made it, and you're looking at him going, yeah, but I led the way. You kind of have to do the same thing with the C. You're a Sherpa for them as well, but what you have to do for them is you can't allow them to go down rabbit trails of getting into the details, the minutia, over-analyzing things. You've got to be that Sherpa that guides them back to the bigger picture, back to what needs to be solved, okay? Like I said before, with a high C, can't be messy, can't be unprepared, and don't be way overly optimistic, vague, and just unclear. You can't just say, we're gonna raise sales by 35% and revenue is going to be through the roof. You know, the high C is going to be in the audience going, all right, well, how are we going to do that? Let's see the detailed plan. Have you looked at the market to see what its trends are and how consumers are behaving? See, the high C's help keep us between the lines. They don't allow us to get too crazy with what we're trying to do, okay? So let's review here. I want to give you just some quick indicators so that you can identify different people and their behavioral styles and communication styles. So the D and the I, remember, they're extroverted. You're going to notice them being more active, more assertive, more bold in how they talk and how they present. The C and the S, more introverted, more calming, let's slow down, let's slow the pace down, let's think about this, let's ask questions, let's be reflective, let's connect a little more, okay? Now, the I and the S are going to be your people-oriented behavioral styles and communication styles. They're going to struggle with conflict because they love the relationship so much, and which is going to make them indirect communicators. Okay, you sometimes might have to have a lot of conversations that take a while to find out exactly what is the issue or the conflict or the concern with the I and the S. With the D and the C, they're going to be task-oriented, okay? They're going to be results-driven. They're going to be more direct communicators. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to, just charge right into conflict. What it does mean is that sometimes they may say things that come across like, wow, you could have said that a little nicer, or man, you're really kind of hurting people's feelings when you call them out like that. You see, you're always going to know where you stand, I think, with a D and a C. A C is always going to call you out when you're too vague, when your numbers don't match up, when you're not providing enough detail. The D is just going to be like, would you just come on, let's do it. Either you produce or you're out of here. Let's go. You know, they're just going to be very brash like that. They want to say those types of things because they don't want to waste time. They want to conquer. They want to achieve. Okay, D and I, extroverted. C and S, introverted. D and C, task-oriented, direct communicators. I and S, people-oriented and indirect communicators. Well, how does this all impact teams? You know, one of the things that I've discovered in coaching teams and coaching individuals that are on teams is that high-performing teams understand two things. They understand that everyone brings value to the team, and they understand that each team has a unique culture. Okay, so let's talk about everyone bringing value. We need all of these different behavioral styles and communication styles. We can't have a great team with all Ds, with all I's, and with all S's. You see, we need those D's to be visionaries and challenging us to go to the next level and to set goals that are beyond what we feel comfortable with. We need those high I's to come in and say, guys, we can do this, not as individuals, but as a team together working, and they're motivators for us. We need those S's to come in and they show up and they work every day hard. They give 110%. They're consistent in what they bring to the table. And we need those C's to help us keep it between the lines. We need those C's to help us make sure that we're delivering things with quality, that we're delivering things with excellence, to help us protect our brand. We need everybody to have a high-performing team. We need to make sure that we've got a team of people and that they know that they all bring value to the team. The other thing that high-performing teams understand is that just like individuals have a DISC profile, you can have a DISC team culture. The high D culture is always looking for results and actions and challenge. The high I, enthusiasm. They want to be motivated. They want to talk about possibilities. The S's want to know that things are going to be safe. They want to know that the markets aren't going to cause there to be layoffs. They want to know that they're going to be able to come in and have their job. They want to work together. They want to support the team. They want to support that visionary. The C wants to know that there's challenge out there, but there's also stability, and there's an opportunity for them to create systems and procedures that can be followed that drive excellence. Okay, and so when teams understand this and when leaders understand this, they know how to communicate to their team. What I mean by that is if you're a high D or a high I type of leader and you're talking to your operations department, or you have an entire company or organization that is made up of a high S's or high C's, you need to understand how they're going to respond to your communication. If you're talking visionary and you're trying to motivate them and talk about all these great things, and they're sitting in the audience going, oh my gosh, what's that going to mean? That's just a lot of change. Are those projections actually accurate? Is this real? Is it going to happen? You know, you're not communicating with them the proper way. You've got to learn to communicate in their language. You've got to adapt your communication to make sure you ensure that they understand what you're trying to say and how they're going to be secure. The same thing with an S or a C. If you're talking to your team and your organization and you're going through and you're talking about your vision and where you're going to be in the next 5, 10 years, and you're trying to motivate them and get them excited, but you're using slideshows that have charts on them and graphs and a ton of data and 100 different bullet points, and they're sitting there and the I fell asleep within the first 5 minutes, the D is just like, oh my gosh, I could be doing so much right now and earning this company so much more money if we could just get this presentation done. You lose your audience when you don't adapt your communication style and talk to them in terms of how they need to hear, okay? High-performing teams understand that. Great leaders understand that. Okay, so what do we need to do to get started? I can't stress this enough. Start off by going to buildingchampions.com/DISC, all capital letters, D-I-S-C. You are going to find different handouts there that we've got for you. You're also going to have information on how you can order your personal DISC profile. That's where you need to start. If you don't have the time or the money to get everybody together and get 100 discs ordered, start with yourself. Okay? Start with you, set up your consultation, and we'll get you started. You're going to see the value in it, I guarantee it. If you get this DISC report and you have your consultation with us and you don't see the value, you don't see how you can improve your communication and help your team, then I'm going to personally guarantee you I'll reimburse you for the cost of you getting your DISC report. I'm that confident that it's going to work for you. Get your team on it as well. I can't stress enough how much we've seen DISC improve results, improve communication, improve productivity. Finally, practice DISC at home and at work. Allow DISC to help you in your families, help you with your relationship with your spouse. Guess what, everybody? Your spouse might be a high S or a high C. You might be a high D or a high I. And when you come home and you try to run that house and jump back into the home culture that is an S-C culture, but you used to being at work as a D or an I, guess what? Going to be conflict. DISC can help you with that. You can DISC your kids, you can DISC your spouse, your neighbors, the community or the church that you're involved in. It allows you to practice it. So give us a call. Email our sales department and we'll get you set up and get you on the road to just improving results by improving your communication. Thanks so much for listening today. I hope to hear from you and I hope to see that we've got a DISC report out for you. Thanks and make it a great day.